If you've spent any amount of time playing Satisfactory, then more than likely you've used a conveyor belt. They can be used to create all sorts of really cool contraptions like the snail jail that I made. Now, you can see the conveyor belts make this run pretty well. But imagine with me if you took the conveyor belts away and maybe instead replaced them with like trains and random trucks and perhaps even drones. Yeah, suddenly things aren't running as efficiently, and it's certainly not as cool to look at or fun to work with, really, but that's why I'm doing it and you're here watching it. To start things off, I did enable or like node randomization. That way, obviously, they'd all be randomized. Because when you play this game as much as I do, starting with the exact same nodes in the exact same places every time gets pretty boring. And it does lead to some weird things like having coal, bauxite, and oil in the starting field, and having to actually look around for iron and copper and basic stuff, which I thought was pretty cool. And it also kind of really changes up the way that you need to build your factories. For example, like having quartz in the starting area is really weird. But I think it'll make the rest of the series pretty entertaining. And it'll keep it fresh for me since I'm the one spending like probably 70 plus hours doing this. But I just wanted to get that out of the way. You can see though, it didn't actually take me too long to find some decent ore nodes. Most of these are in pure, unfortunately. But there is at least one pure one, which for now is really all we need. So I'm going to go ahead and put down the hub and really start setting up by smashing some rocks, putting some miners. Oh wait, yeah, I can't use real miners yet because those require conveyor belts. So for now, we're going to be using portable miners for quite a long time. And believe it or not, when you're playing the game without conveyor belts, there's a lot of handcrafting to do. Like, I don't know if I got in a flow state or something while I was playing this. I didn't realize just how much handcrafting I was doing until I went through to edit, and it was absolutely ridiculous. The first probably third of all of the recording footage that I have is just me running back and forth in a loop between the portable miners, the smelters, and the constructors, because without conveyor belts to automate everything, I have to hand load everything. And then whenever I wasn't waiting for those, or whenever I was waiting for those, I was just handcrafting the rest of the ingredients that I needed. So obviously that wouldn't be incredibly fun for you guys to watch, so I'm just going to do that in the background while I kind of talk about the challenge in general and kind of my channel in general too. We'll start off with the challenge though. This is one that I don't think too many people recommended because it's absolutely insane, but it's one that I've had in the back of my mind for a little bit and I think it'll be fun to do. If I'm being completely honest, I actually thought that it would be a pretty easy challenge. Like going into this, I wasn't expecting it to be too hard, and I'm realizing now that I was incredibly wrong. You can see here, this is just me hand loading the furnaces with the iron ore that I have from the portable miners. Eventually I'll expand this a little bit, that way we can get things going at least a little bit faster. But for the beginning of the game, this is all that I have. Like I said, actually for a while I handcrafted copper. And by handcrafted I mean like I didn't even have constructors over there, I literally just handcrafted everything. Limestone also for a long time was pretty slow. I only had like 1 to 2 constructors running, which if you've ever played this game, you're probably aware that that's nowhere near enough. But as you can see, a lot of this was just me sitting here handcrafting copper for hours on end and other random intermediate items that you need to beat the game. Even getting the space elevator like this is pretty time consuming. Now, I will say it wasn't that bad for me because, believe it or not, I have completely handcrafted the elevator before. It's not anywhere on my channel, but I was attempting to make a series where I only handcrafted the entire game. And judging by the fact that that is not on my channel, I'm sure you can guess how that went. It wasn't exactly entertaining to watch or play. But this isn't nearly as bad because, realistically, if you just put in a bunch of hand miners and smelters and constructors and everything, you can not blast through the beginning of the game, but honestly, doing it like this is sometimes faster than actually automating things if you're doing it the way that I am. And I also got lucky, and there's another pure copper node over here, which I've been using. But that was, like I said, that was just really good luck. That honestly, the copper could have been anywhere, which would have made this way more painful to play. But thankfully, the game realized that I was going to be going through enough pain with this and gave us copper pretty close to the starting area. Now, some of the more eagle-eyed viewers might realize that I'm definitely going to have to use conveyor belts to beat this, which, you know, kind of goes against the entire thing that I just said. But what I mean by no conveyor belts is I'm using them literally only when there is no other way to transport items. So like when you're putting items into or getting them out of a truck station or like a train or something like that, you literally have to use conveyor belts because unlike Factorio or like Dyson Sphere Project, it's not possible to remove items from things like that without just hand loading them. And that wouldn't be even remotely entertaining to watch. I think like the entertainment value from this is going to be for me setting up all like the insane transport lines with like the trucks and the trains and the drones and everything like that. And this is also a run that kind of gets exponentially easier the longer you play. Like the beginning of it is actually the hardest, and then as you go, it gets easier because once we get trains, this won't be nearly as bad. But like I said, I just wanted to say that before you guys see me build conveyor belts and you're like, oh, straight to the comment section, he failed to run, blow this guy up. Please don't blow me up. I did use conveyor belts, but like I said, it's minimized to only when they're literally required. I even ended up using trucks to load the resource sink, which looks absolutely ridiculous, but like I said, that's just what we're doing here. You can see I did finally build the space elevator though, which means that, yay, now we get to handcraft 50 smart plates. That's super fun. It actually wasn't that bad.
Milestone reached.
50 isn't nearly as bad. I did originally consider doing this with multiplied amounts of the space elevator parts, and looking back, I am so glad that I didn't do that. That would have been one of the stupidest things that I've ever done. I really did think that this run was going to be a lot easier than it was. You can see here my main game plan was just to put down some assemblers and then hand load the parts in for the smart plates until they were finished. It really didn't take that long, especially like I said, there's only 50 of them. And now that we have 50 smart plates in the space elevator, we can actually unlock trucks, which means that we can finally automate items. However, we actually can't, because something that I overlooked is the fact that truck stations are incredibly expensive, especially at the beginning of the game. They're not usually that expensive because the game assumes correctly usually that you're only going to be using 1 to 2 to like maybe 4 for your base to maybe get coal back and forth or something that's far away. When you have to build like 50 plus truck stations just to set up some basic like screws and iron plates, the cost of that gets multiplied pretty exponentially and it gets pretty ridiculous. Like I said, that's just another thing that I just literally didn't look into it enough before I started this run, and it's another reason that I kind of got discouraged at this point, because I was realizing, like, going into this, like I said, I thought it was going to be really easy, and then at this point I'm realizing that this is going to be a way bigger undertaking than I actually was like initially ready for. But I wanted to get it out and I wanted to show you guys. So with that, vehicular transport is unlocked and we can officially build trucks. Yeah, they're pretty puny. These are actually tractors. You get trucks later. I don't think there's much of a difference between tractors and trucks, other than obviously trucks can haul more items. So tractors is what we're going to be using for a long time until we get trains. Once we get trains, I'll probably transition most of the base to that. You can see me showing off my elite driving skills here. You guys can maybe hope to be as good as me one day, but this comes with at least 1,000 hours in Satisfactory, so don't get your hopes up too quickly. This is my first pitiful excuse for a truck stop. I believe I was trying to automate iron rods here. If you're ever, for whatever reason, doing this challenge or setting up a truck like automated setup like this, don't do it like this. I was just trying to figure it out. I have no idea why I did it this way. It's way better to do it in a straight line, which I'll show you later. At this point, too, I realized that getting all the resources by handcrafting was going to take literal hours, and I wanted this video to be out at least at some point this year. So I decided to just research the resource sink program so that I can get the awesome shop and the awesome sink, and then I can just go through it like crash sites and pick up random items, and then obviously grind those down in order to get tickets, and then I can just use the tickets to buy like the basic things like screws and like iron rods in order to craft modular frames. I could have just flat out bought the modular frames, but without doing any math, I just kind of assumed that it would be more efficient to, at least like more ticket efficient, obviously not more time efficient, but who cares about that. I assumed it would be more efficient to just buy like the base components and then handcraft them from there, especially since it doesn't take that long. You can see this is a pretty genius strategy of me building up storage containers, because I literally don't have foundations unlocked yet, and I actually went quite a long time in this challenge without them. which is just another one of those things that I never really planned for. But I never really grabbed like these shipwrecks. I never really go out and grab the shipwrecks, so this is a big change for me. I usually only do this honestly when I need like turbo fuel, because obviously you need 3 hard drives in order to unlock turbo fuel. But another reason I was doing this is we're looking for the alternate recipe for cast screws, because building screws the normal way in this challenge is completely ridiculous and it's not even remotely worth it. So if you can just reduce it down to like one step, like you just literally pull it out of the smelters and then craft them into screws, it makes everything fit so much better, and it saved me probably like, I can't even imagine how many hours that saved me. The screw recipe is so ridiculous with the setup just because you need a truck station every time you unload and load, which I know me saying that now doesn't sound ridiculous, but I promise you it is. And like I said, I think that's the reason that I thought this challenge was going to be so much easier than it was. Here you can see though, we of course cannot use conveyor belts to load the resource sink, so I'm using a good old tractor. It really wasn't that bad. This is just one. It's 2 truck stations, but obviously you need... Well, actually, I think I did just use one here. I'm completely wrong. Yeah, I think I only used 1 truck station. Oh no, there we go. There's the second one. I was about to say I was pretty sure that you need at least 2. You can also see I immediately ran out of fuel here. I was kind of struggling to get through this part of the recording. It was pretty late at night when I was recording this, and I had been working on it all day, and this challenge is really starting to get to me. But you can see, just like that, the truck has finally loaded in all of the parts that we need to grind down, and using these parts, like I said, we're going to be able to buy the base components for a lot of the things that we need. Well, I'm just shredding up all these things that we probably could have used way later in the run. Let me remind you that this took a lot of time, and if you don't mind liking, subscribing, and especially commenting, that would mean the world to me. You can also now join the channel as a member, because I'm officially part of the YouTube Partner Program. Thank you guys so much for that. It's $4 a month and you'll get a little badge. I want to set up more perks for it later, but as for right now, that's all that is set up because it has to be verified by YouTube. But that really does help, and like I said earlier in my previous videos, I really do respond to every single comment and I read everyone. So if there's any like challenge ideas that you want to see or just something that you want to say, please don't be afraid to comment down below. I love responding to you guys. And here is our shopping list. It looks completely ridiculous spending that many tickets on things that would take like literally 15 minutes to get in a normal run, but this isn't exactly a normal run. And we finally unlocked base building into phase 2, which is probably something that you don't see too often. What I'm setting up now is the actual truck, not blueprint, but like setup that I'll be using for the rest of the run. At least, unless you guys have a better idea on like a better way to do this. I'm going to be honest, if this video does really well, I will continue to upload it and work on it. But if this doesn't, like, if this video isn't received well, I probably won't be continuing the series. It was rough. This really took it out of me mentally. I'm sure you can tell that by the mistakes that I'm making in the gameplay. There's a lot of stuff that I'm like looking at this and watching it back. It was pretty rough to watch at certain points. But like I said, I think the main reason I just went into this thinking that it was going to be super easy and super quick. I even talked to my brother about it, and we were talking about how it really wouldn't be that bad. It'd be a fun video to just get out like pretty quickly, and then maybe work on a bigger project. And then turns out this is the bigger project. But I was okay with it. It was fun for a little bit. I just don't think I'll be continuing unless, I don't know, if this gets like 50k views, I'll do another one and I'll suffer through it. And honestly, if it does get 50k views, I'll just finish the series. You can see though, luckily I got alternate cast screws on my first hard drive scam, which was really good luck and really kept me motivated to build obviously this little screw setup. You can see the truck just literally goes in a straight line one by one, picking up the ore and then dropping it off, and then smelting the ingots and then dropping it off, and then crafting the screws and then once again dropping them off. This design isn't perfect because a lot of times it'll actually jam. You'll get like random things and then you'll suddenly be trying to insert iron rods into a smelter for some reason. But things like that really don't happen too often. Also, I'm not going to show it very much in the video because I literally just got done making a biofuel only video. I will show me absolutely desecrating this poor little guy though. Looking back, this was unreasonably cruel and I apologize, but it needed to be done at the time to keep me sane. But there was a lot of biofuel harvesting that went on in this run just because that's what the trucks were running off of. This is my little setup though. You can see the arrows kind of show the way that the trucks are going. They all just go in a straight line. This is just iron plates, screws, and then concrete in the corner there. I now have concrete like officially automated, which is nice. And this is a pretty small setup, like I said. Well, I mean, it's huge considering what I'm making, but small in the way that we're not making that many items. I also, for a little bit, thought that maybe coal would be better to burn in the trucks, like maybe it would last longer. That made sense in my brain. Turns out it doesn't last longer at all. Um, it's another one of those things, if you're doing this for yourself, don't use coal. It's not worth it. Just use biofuel until you get like a better fuel. But with the setup that I showed you earlier, we finally automated rotors, which means that we can maybe possibly start on smart plates finally. I do like how this ended up looking. It got a little messy here towards the end with the rotor setup. Not everything is in a perfect line like I would like it to be. But in order to get reinforced plates, I had to get another pure node over here. I only use pure nodes in this because I really, with the way that the trucks work, I don't feel like setting up multiple lines. And I also don't want to cheat it with conveyor belts, so I just, like I said, I only really use pure nodes, which should make it a little bit harder. Unfortunately, you can see down there, the iron node on the left is a pure node, and I just didn't realize it was there. I would have used that one as opposed to the one all the way across this bridge. But like I said, I didn't see it until literally right now as I'm jumping off the bridge to go find it. But I did end up using it later in the run, so it really wasn't that big of a deal. I think I used it to make another part of the smart plates. This is the problem that I was talking about earlier, where sometimes the setup will get jammed with random items that you really don't need, and you'll end up with like random iron rods and iron plates going into smelters, which obviously that's not where they go. I'm gonna be honest, this is the point of the recording where I was kind of losing it. I had been doing this for a lot of hours, a lot of just watching the bean ride on this truck in circles, and I decided that I didn't have it in me to finish the rest of the setup. So you can see I just placed down a lot of the assemblers here in a line, and then I had my little storage containers to hold all the items that I was feeding into these, and then I let these not handcraft, but kind of assemble the smart plates, that obviously the 1,000 that I needed for the space elevator. You can call this cheating. It doesn't feel like winning, if I'm being completely honest, but it is technically beating the challenge within the rule set. It's just more of like a handcrafty way to do it. Like I said, this one seriously took it out of me. Sorry I wasn't able to complete phase 2 like I usually do in these videos. This one just like really, I was not expecting it to be so rough. But thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed the little bit that there was. Like I said, if this video does end up doing incredibly well, I will end up finishing it. I think it's just going to take me longer because I don't want to do it all in one sitting because that'll make me lose my mind. But I really do appreciate all of you guys watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. Please remember to like and subscribe and comment down below. And I hope I see you in the next one. Bye.